Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Corky Kessler. I'm a principal in a law firm in Chicago called Deutsch, Levy and Engel, and I'm thrilled to be here. I thank the Majestic Hotel, and I thank Paramax Films. To my far right, we have Gil Aglaure, who is the president of Koan Inc. We've got Daisy Hamilton with Tricoast, and we've got Patrick Fischer from Creative Media. We have over here Hermes,
Cavagnina.
and your company is Frontera Pictures. And Kim Holland, your company is?
Entertainment Finance LLC.
All right. So the subject that we're going to really talk about this afternoon is pre-sales and funding. They sort of go hand in hand, and it seems to me that if you have some pre-sale projections even, it can aid in funding. Gilles, if someone comes to you and gives you a project that you really enjoy, are you able to give them pre-sale projections, or what do you need to give them pre-sale projections?
Well, every project has to have very specific things. The cast is very important. The genre is very important. The story in itself, all sort of elements that are we can look at the project and say it has potential, it doesn't, it has something that we can for sure sell to our buyers. Today I don't think that you can do pre-sales without really having a cast or having names. Whether it's a big director, if you have a nice director, somebody known, therefore it will probably unlock a number of cast people. It will be not a guarantee, but it will be likely that they will be able to secure a number of casts. But if you don't have these elements today, you won't be able to pre-sell.
Daisy?
I completely agree. I think that what's hard is when producers come to me looking for pre-sales and it's a first-time director. This is pretty much the hardest thing to do, but it's understandable, because if you're a distributor in another country and you're going to buy something in advance, which is already a risk because the film could be great, maybe it's bad, who knows. There are several risk mitigating factors to that inherent risk, one being the cast, but more importantly is the director. So if someone was trying to pre-sell a Darren Aronofsky film, you would know what you would get at the end. It might be different than what you expected, but or Sofia Coppola, or Wes Anderson, all of these directors have a very specific style. They've executed, they've delivered. So a buyer in another territory can have a high level of confidence and also an understanding of what the final product will be. But with the first-time director, even if unless they've maybe won Sundance with their short, that I've seen that, but still not even with pre-sales necessarily. It's more that they can then go get a deal with a platform or one of the major studios. But it's really, pre-selling a first-time director is just not possible. I will also say that there are some genres that are easier to pre-sell than others. Usually pre-sales happen in the sort of 10 to 25 or 10 and up range, sometimes in the $5 million range. But from a financial standpoint, it doesn't really make sense because those contracts have to be banked. And so there's banking fees, there's a lot of banking work. And if you're doing it on a $500,000 film, it doesn't make sense financially. So I would also say that it works for a certain budget range, and it works for genres that are in high demand, because that means that when the film is made, the demand for it and the competition to get that within each territory is very high. If it's an oversaturated genre, then there's no reason to need to get in early, which is what a buyer is doing. So it's really important to put yourself in the buyer's shoes and think, why is he trying to pre-buy this? What's his incentive?
Patrick, you sometimes get involved in funding, and before you fund, what are the various elements that you look at before you decide to fund? And do you provide partial, do you provide whole, and do you provide funding outside of your country?
Well, with Creativity Capital, which is our funding company, we have a venture capital line. So we have, our own backers. We have groups of investors, and we finance films all over the world. They do not have to be UK based, and we finance pre-sales. We have started to come on board even when there aren't pre-sales. If a sales agent says, "Listen, I'm in a situation where it is a young director, it's a first or second time director, it's a film that we really believe in." We did a film called Under the Shadow, which opened in Sundance and did very well, but it was a Farsi horror film. A Farsi language horror film set in Iran. That is not something that is easily pre-sellable. Yet we were able to, again, the director was a writer-director. He was BAFTA nominated for his short. So the short had done very well, and people were excited. And the producers and us were said, okay, well, let's take some risk money, let's work with the sales company, and let's put something in where we went in and. For instance, on movies, we can go in halves with the MG. So you say, listen, we want to put an MG against Worldwide, but we don't want to take all the risk ourselves. So we can sit beside you and say, listen, actually, this project is exciting. And we can do those kind of deals to then help get the budget over the line.
Okay. Hermes, do you do pre-sales in your company, or do you help in the funding stage?
Well, we have some time in the funding stage with few small projects. Usually we are in a smaller budget range. And we did a funding in a small... the title of the movie is Scoring, and it's a fantastic horror movie that takes place at the beginning of the 19th century, and is shot in English as language. But it takes place around Florence, and it's a very interesting story, and we're working closer with the production to get it made. We started talking with the sale agents from few companies to have a better idea of how would be the best way to make a bankable movie, basically. So we're very focused on how to produce the better product and the easier to sell, basically.
And Kim, your company provides, partial funding, and you look at projects. What do the projects have to have? I mean, before you even consider it.
Yeah, the main model that we use is last stage financing especially for our foreign investors who are more risk averse. So the last 20% or so, when you have the A-list director attached and an A-list cast, and you have pre-sales, all those kinds of attachments, a great business plan that shows how you're going to get the money back to the investor. Those kinds of elements are what we look for. And then genre-wise, action, action adventure, sci-fi, thriller, animated films. We're working on quite a few of those right now.
And that's for your Chinese investors, I assume.
The Chinese investors that we have focus on the action, sci-fi, thriller, and animated films.
And so you have funding sources that are both in the United States and China. How long have you developed your China connection?
Well, I've been in and out of China for more than 25 years, but that doesn't mean you have to take 25 years to develop your relationships for the film business. For the financing side, I've been involved in that for the last 5 years or so. But those relationships do come out of my long-time work in what they call the cultural industry, and we call the entertainment industry.
I think we are blessed that this entire panel, from time to time, puts money in to help fund movies that they get involved with. What's critical to you, Gil, before you put any money into a movie?
Well, we usually involve ourselves first a lot. I mean, when we put money, or if we're going to financially participate in a project, we really feel like we have to be involved creatively. We're from the beginning really working on the script with the writers and with the people who. We don't hesitate to we don't take the project, but we really know what's going to sell. We hope we know what's going to sell. It's very important to try to tell the filmmakers that there is a role, and distribution definitely has a role and should be should be involved from the very, very beginning of the project. That's a mistake. It's an industry where people are passionate. The passion is the thing that makes them want to tell a story. But very often they forget that eventually it needs to sell because there is money involved, and they don't involve the distributors from the beginning. And so if we're going to put money on a project, we really want to be able to change things, make them better, work with them. We don't want to take the project over, but we really are involved. And some producers, with certain producers, it's a no-go. And for us, it's a no-go. If they're not open to making it better by the standards that we define as being better, then we're not involved.
Daisy?
Yeah, to sort of add on that, what I always try to explain to producers is that our intention is not to disrupt or change the artistic integrity of the project at all. However, being at markets like this and speaking with buyers all day long, the first question we ask them is, what's working for you? What's making you money in your territory? So we know what they're looking for. And so with that knowledge, we try to infuse that into the project, because it could be if you change that one scene or that one outfit, now you have a Middle Eastern sale where before you didn't. These small things that don't change the overall storyline, but really do affect it financially. And I think that it behooves producers to get that input, especially if they're taking other people's money. If it's their own money, okay, go make your film and hopefully it's great, and then you can talk to us. But when you're putting other people's money at risk, I think that you have an obligation to sort of check the financial side of it. The thing that I'll say is, what I've started to really have to focus on as I'm going down the development line with somebody is I've started to look more at the producer's background, because let's say I love a script, and we decide, okay, we're gonna put 50% even, which is a high amount for an MG from a distributor or sales agent, but it's a genre, it's a family film. We know that everyone needs a family film right now, so we're gonna do it. They're gonna bring the other 50%, and then months and months go by and they don't bring their 50%, and I've wasted so much of my company's time and resources and doing business flow and all of that and working on this project. So I try to really now have a high level of confidence in the producer's ability to execute.
Patrick?
It's key. It's key. I completely agree with you. I mean, for us, it's something where, yes, the project has to work, the project has to sell, but the partners are key. The producer is obviously key, but then again, the sales company, the distributors, all the partners, when we get involved in a project, we vet everyone and we make sure that we get comfortable with everyone, because if we're investing and the sales company doesn't do their job properly, that's a huge impact. It can, change a good investment to a horrific one. So we make sure that we're all aligned, that we work together from the beginning, and that's how we feel we make the best movies.
Okay, Hermes?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. We work on a smaller level of budget because we don't have name actors, usually in the movies that we fund, but I work closely with a sales agency, Devil Works, that is here in Cannes even this year, and we are really focused on the screenplay and on the background of the producer, because there is a huge Italian community that wants to make genre movies. Now we have only major comedies that usually are not sellable out of Italy, and there are very many smaller producers that want to make horror movies and adventure movies, but they don't have a real idea of business. So it gets tricky to work with them and make something sellable at the end. So yeah, our main focus is always the screenplay and the background of the people that we are going to work on.
Kim, you are sort of partial funding, and you're pretty much back-end funding. How does your company work? What do you look at, and what has to happen before your company steps in to provide any money?
Well, the elements that I was mentioning earlier, we want to see. Obviously, first, their synopsis, their log line, their 1-minute pitch has to interest us, but then immediately we're going to ask, do you have any partial funding attached? We like to see 50%. We don't always require 50%, because the other model is a matching fund model. But if it's last stage, then we want to see 80% there. Maybe sometimes it's 90%. So that equity, not
Now-
just tax incentives,
Now you're
but
10%.
equity.
If it's 90%, and
No,
you're
they
providing-
bring 90.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they provide 90, you bring 10. Does your 10% have priority payback over the 90?
Well, each deal is different. You know, each deal is different, so we look at that. We also look at why they need that all of a sudden. You know, why do they need that last 10 to 20%? Sometimes, they're in post and the post budget went over. Sometimes an investor pulls out, that they didn't expect to have happen. But we try to investigate that first and see why they need it, and then what the terms are, and depending on their situation, that depends on how much they're willing to give to the investor.
Now let's talk a little, as we have time, on distribution, because we have two sales agents, distributors here. Is talent important to you, Gil, for distribution?
What talent are you talking
I
about?
mean, talent that's in the movie.
Yeah, it's key.
No, but
We
does
said
it
it-
have to be bankable, or does the story control and you've got credible talent?
Yeah, it has to be. See, there's sometimes a difference between what the producers perceive as a talent, as somebody who's going to sell, and what the distributors perceive as somebody who's going to sell. I remember one story one day when somebody had a film and they were so happy that they had John Denver in it. John Denver is a great singer and very famous in the States. In other countries, people can know some of the songs. They don't even know the guy is named John Denver, but they know his songs. But I said to them, I hope you're going to get your money back from the States of what you paid him, because you will not get it back from the international. And so there is sometimes a big difference between who people perceive as, good cast versus what we as distributors perceive as good cast. And again, as you said it, as Daisy said it, we are in direct contact with the buyers. We know what they tell us what they want. They tell us who they're looking for. When we sometimes develop a project, we contact them. We say, hey, out of these 5 or 6 names, which one do you think is best for your territory? And then we suddenly have some kind of, comparable evaluation of these actors. When an actor comes back in the top 3, systematically, country by country, then we know that actor, we're safe in hiring that actor, to putting in the film, because overall the countries will buy it. I mean, the buyers will take that film with that actor. So it's a very important thing, but the producers don't necessarily know that. I don't know how they could know that other than, coming to the market. And sometimes they say, well, that actor was in that film, and you say, yeah, but in other countries it's not going to work. It's not gonna work well. So they really need to turn to us and say, what do you think of that? And not just say, oh, how can I have that actor? And they're excited about it, by the way, because sometimes they just, it means a lot to them to have that actor, but it means nothing to the buyers who are buying bigger films and bigger names, and for them, it doesn't work.
Right. So I think in that sense, it's really important to have that dialogue open so that before you put down that money for that pay or play on that TV actor that's big in the States and you need that name to get pre-sales, we would tell you actually it takes several seasons for that TV actor to travel around the world. It might even you have to wait until it goes into syndication. So that money is better spent on somebody that hasn't done a film in years but is actually really well known around the world. But I'll also say it's interesting you brought up the John Denver point, because there are ways to get interesting with cast. Cast is just hands down, it's a hard reality, massively important. But for instance, we are distributing an animated film in the States, I think this week, about dogs that play soccer. So I acquired it from Mexico, and we did the English dub, and we paid some money for Sean Astin, who's fantastic. And then we had money left, and I was like, well, what kind of voices should we do? And I decided to hire a bunch of Major League Soccer players in the States. And this did really well. And so it earned us a lot of earned media through all of the ESPN channels, and all of them have their massive Facebook and Twitter followings. And so this worked really well. It was a unique way. It means nothing around the world. We're selling the film internationally. But for us, because we're doing the domestic release as well, this turned out to be a great, interesting, unique way to, and they were less expensive than some of the name actors.
you're distributing a film that's starring a good friend of mine and a client of mine. What was that film? What was the subject matter, or was it the story? What had you so intrigued to pick up that movie? I don't.
Well,
wanna
it's
name.
a rom-com.
If you want to name it, you could.
Yeah, it's called Love Addict. It's
Yeah.
in theaters now in America, and it's a raunchy rom-com. I think that there's
Because there was no
Right.
established talent. In that
right,
movie.
right. Although one of the I'm forgetting her names. There was one person that had really big social media following.
Okay.
And that's helpful, especially in the social media campaign. I think that there is a very strong place for sort of raunchy rom-coms. There's definitely identifiable audience, college boys that we're hitting and we're targeting and we're marketing to. And we found the producing team to be really good. Elliot's great. There's also a guy named Brad Littlefield who I think Brad is just, I love him so much. So sometimes a lot of it depends on relationship as well, because if you've developed these relationships and then they come back to you with another film, you want to find a way to make it work because you genuinely enjoy working with that person.
All right. Final comments. What would you advise filmmakers around the world if you had to give them one piece of advice, Gil?
To know to make blue cars when the market wants blue cars and not red cars. That's what I would tell them to do.
Daisy?
That's so similar. I was going to say, tap into what stories need to be told as opposed to what stories they want to tell, which is sort of exactly what he was saying.
Patrick?
Well, I'd say to remember that it's show business, and without the business, there really isn't any show.
Hermes?
Listen more to advices from sale agents and distributors and focus more on the target of the market.
Learn the language of the investors and, prepare for that. Have people on your team that are spending as much time on the business side of making your film as they are on the creative side.
The final comment I have is I'm usually brought in as the legal or the business arm to the creative team, and I have to convince the creative team from time to time is that I protect the money. I protect the money more maybe than I protect them, but I protect the money because the money is the critical thing. If you get investors who get involved in a movie and that movie shows very well and does even moderately well, it doesn't have to be a grand slam, you've got these investors again. You've got them again and again, but you've got to be true to your investors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.